We want a deal.
We are ready to work on solutions.
They don't seem to want to progress a free trade deal.
We want a deal.
There's no point in negotiations proceeding.
Significant differences remain.
No deal.
Trade.
Cherry pick. Brexit.
Negotiation.
Deadline.
Deal.
Trade deals. We all know how important they are to world politics and global business. But how do they actually work? How do they come about? As time runs out over Brexit trade negotiations, what does a no-deal Brexit look like come the 1st of January? Post-World War II, the world's economy was in tatters. Germany, Japan and the whole of Europe were on their knees. America, like others, had suffered great loss of life, but it hadn't seen the same devastation as the other war-affected countries. It emerged from World War II as the world's clear economic superpower, holding over 2/3 of the world's gold reserves. The inequality created by war ended up bringing the world's most influential nations together. In Bretton Woods, in New Hampshire, delegates from 44 countries came together to establish a new model for global trade and, more importantly, peace.
The big innovation of Bretton Woods was a sort of recognition that we are, in some sense, all in this together, that there's some responsibility for creating a system that, by and large, works, if not for everybody, at least for everybody who is willing to join it.
The conference saw the creation of a key institution, the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, or GATT for short. Over the course of the next 50 years, the GATT nations would oil the wheels of world trade by cutting back tariffs and quotas on goods being exchanged between countries. However, after decades of renewed global prosperity, tariffs became so low that they couldn't be hacked at anymore, and economists needed to find new ways of making global business more efficient.
The non-tariff barrier is what it says on the tin. It's a barrier that's not a tariff. They cover a multitude of things, some of which are genuinely there for good purposes, but which can be abused. So you need rules, or you need a way of sorting out the cheating from the genuine. And so it's a sort of commitment towards integration and ultimately even a commitment towards nation building.
In the 80s and early 90s, over a period of 7.5 years, these countries tried hard to reach conclusions on problems in international trade and local policies across a variety of sectors, ranging from agriculture to textiles to financial services and intellectual property.
The founders of Bretton Woods had devised in the 1940s rules for a world of limited capital flows, and we must now devise rules for a world of global capital flows.
Their eventual, albeit aggravated, consensus across these industries led to the formation of what we now know as the World Trade Organization, which, fast forward to today, is fundamental to Britain as it shifts towards a post-EU existence. The EU is the United Kingdom's largest trading partner, contributing to 52% of its imports and 43% of its exports. As part of the Union, the UK had access to its free trade initiatives, the Customs Union, the Single Market, and minimal border checks on goods flowing between its nations. Come the 1st of January, when the transition periods ended, Britain will no longer be able to trade as part of these regulations unless a deal's been reached between the two parties. Upon leaving the European Union and its 41 trade deals with individual third nations, the UK's membership of the World Trade Organization is of vital importance.
When a country trades on WTO rules, it means it's trading on the trade rules that are laid out by the World Trade Organization, a big international court in Geneva. And these are the default rules for world trade. If there is a no-deal scenario, we will then trade with the EU under WTO rules. And that would mean we wouldn't have to accept any of the EU's conditions that they're trying to impose on us in terms of our fishing industry or governance or the so-called level playing field.
I think we should just come out.
Well, we was all right before we went in it. So why shan't we be the same again? Who knows?
In a no-deal Brexit, WTO terms allow the UK to continue to trade based on a standard set of terms, without having to draw up new guidelines with every single nation. Government often refers to this as an Australia-style deal. But if these WTO terms are introduced, both UK and EU businesses will have to adapt, and fast.
We're the fifth largest economy in the world. We'll be able to survive any hit.
To avoid this sudden change, Britain's currently trying to negotiate rollover agreements that match the EU's existing arrangements with these 70-plus nations.
Liz Truss and other trade ministers have been working very, very hard to sign so-called rollover agreements, so the deal that those countries have with the EU also applies to the UK when it's outside the EU. And sometimes the rollover agreements actually improve the terms for the UK because they're not negotiating as the European Union bloc with all the different interests of the different countries. But I think the real advantage of being outside the European Union is that we can then strike out on our own and sign free trade agreements with countries that the EU has never managed to do so because the EU itself is riven with differing interests and conflicts between its own member states, which means it doesn't want to sign the really big trade deals.
The ability to strike up more beneficial trade relationships outside the EU has long been seen as one of the big positives of leaving the Union, the first of which was made with Japan. The Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, or CEPA, will mean nearly all British exports to Japan will be tariff-free, whilst all Japanese car imports into the UK will be at 0% tariff by 2026. It's not yet clear how favourable the New Deal is, but it does provide a big boost to the government's Global Britain mantra. The partnership will supposedly strengthen the UK's position as a leader in digital trade, as well as giving it a greater chance of joining the coveted Trans-Pacific Free Trade Area, which would see Britain side with Canada, Australia and Mexico, amongst others, who account for 13% of the world's GDP.
The CEPA between Britain and Japan is tailored to the British economy, and so it secures additional benefits beyond what was possible between the EU and Japan. That will give British businesses exporting to Japan a competitive advantage in a number of areas. It will create jobs, it will drive economic growth across the country, and it includes enhancements in areas such as data and digital, in financial services, food and drink, and creative industries as well.
Britain hopes that this relationship will form a closer bond with some of the world's most influential powers outside of China, the US and the EU. The government will look to pen other such trade deals over the next 12 months, the biggest perhaps being with Biden's America, which might just be the long-sought-after renewal of the special relationship enjoyed by the two nations.
If the UK can sign a trade deal with America, which the EU has never done, despite 60 years of trying, a major achievement, a major boon for our commerce in what is still the world's biggest economy.
Discussion of an EU deal has dominated negotiations and headlines over the past 3.5 years. But beyond Brexit, the opportunities for trade deals around the world are plentiful, and that may well be where the focus lies going forward.